Thank you.
Welcome to Entrepreneur Live.
I'm humbled. Glad to be here.
Let's see, we're getting all set up. People are coming in the room. And let me see.
I need to.
Even though you see words on your face when this is recorded, it won't show in the
Okay.
recordings. But I
I don't
will.
see any words on my face, but thanks for the heads up.
Okay, well, cool. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You're doing something, right?
Perfect. Well, I just learned today on how to remove the comments.
Okay.
So, hey, Gary. We have Gary in the house. We have Georgia.
How you doing, Gary? How you doing, Georgia?
We have Case Hazelwood. Cass Hazelwood. I hope I said that correctly. Welcome, everyone.
Oh.
And I'm just going to do the intro here, see if this will hold up here. Doing well. That's good news. That's good news. We thank everyone for joining. If you take a few seconds just to hit the share button and invite 3 of your friends, we thank you for sharing, and welcome to the Kingdom Heirs Live Entrepreneur Hour. And tonight's special guest will be Kadeem McLean. My name is Renee Rainey, your wealth building coach. I specialize in helping individuals increase their streams of income through entrepreneurship, investing, real estate, and finances. The Kingdom Heirs is an online platform created to give you online access to invest in yourself and your future legacy. Visit our website at thekingdomheirs.com to learn more, or message any of our social media pages if you have any questions for us. And without further ado, welcome, Kadeem.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having Miss Renee.
Well, thank you.
Go ahead, sorry.
Thank you for taking the time out to join us tonight. And before you tell us about yourself, I just want to share with those, this is like a first for us tonight. We have you're our first international speaker.
I'm honored.
And I didn't even know you were an international speaker till Gary told me. He was like, "That's a guy from Canada." And I was like, I don't know. I was just, we're in a mastermind group together. So We're learning how to get this social media business off the ground. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you'll tell us more about, what your plans are with the social media portion of it. So introduce yourself.
Yeah, so Kadeem McLean, right? In Canada, actually, as Ms. Renee said, international. So in Canada, I always tell people Toronto, but that's because people don't really know the surrounding cities. I'm in the greater Toronto area called the GTA, and it's essentially the city surrounding Toronto. The one I'm in is in Mississauga. That's the name of it. So yeah, I've been in the financial industry for since 2014. End of 2014, I got involved. I'm just another individual here trying to do the right thing. Glory to God, and I'm just trying to share information and whatever little knowledge I have that I've been blessed with, I try to share with others. So, in a nutshell, I guess that's me.
That's awesome. I tell you, I get to benefit from your what is it? Tuesday tips.
That's it. Tuesday
with a
tips,
dollar sign on the S. And so, and it's kind of like I do a wealth chat in the morning. And so, you come on, I'm like, okay, I'm taking notes here. So, and as you heard in the introduction, finance is something that I talk about, not a whole lot. I used to do the Dave Ramsey. I used to be a facilitator for that, but we do talk about investing and real estate and legacy and all that good stuff, but all roads leads to the finances. Yep. So I said, you know what, let me bring the big dogs in, or the big guns in that arena, because I love how you present it, because finance is really not a topic that a lot of people want to talk about. And then when you say budget, people cringe. Some people cringe. I met some accountants they love their budgets, But the way that you present it, especially when you talked about the emergency fund, I was like, you know what? You did it in such a way that it was relatable. Like you presented it with what's happening today, and like,
Right.
hey, you guys, we didn't see that coming. And
Mm-hmm.
so I wanted to just start a journey because I do mentor a lot of not teenage, but college students. And then I have on the other side of the spectrum where people, they're making big dollars, but they have a lot of cash, but no
Right.
assets or,
Yeah.
and then the other day I posted about legacy and how back in the day, we prepared for generations, our children's children, but now we're just living from paycheck to paycheck. And then we're asking for money to bury us. So
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to start there. Like, how do you address that mindset?
So first of all, I'll say this. It always brings me joy, if you will, and I'm always appreciative to hear that people are benefiting from the information and the videos I'm giving on the Tuesday tips and whatnot. So thank you again for that. I'm glad that you can get something from it. And like you said, I know you know a lot of it already, but sometimes people might say things in a different way that you're not
Mm-hmm.
used to hearing, so it might stick with you different. So thank you for that. In terms of the mindset, to be honest, just hearing you speak about it, every time I hear it, it aggravates me a little bit because I don't know. The way I look at it is, do you want to pass on assets or do you want to pass on debts, liabilities? That's the big thing. And of course, people want to pass on assets to their loved ones, right, to their future generations. But unfortunately, they're not. There's a missing link. They want to do it, but they're not taking action to do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So how I really address that is really just kind of being straightforward and blunt. Like, this is where you want to go. There's no other way to get there except for this road and this road. So at the end of the day, these are your options. So just being kind of straight up and honest with them. And honestly, some stories can play into that. Like, I know quite a few people who passed away. And I'll put it this way. One of my brothers passed away in 2010.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you for that. He was 23 years old, right? 23, young. And long story short, my sister had to take money out of the house to provide a burial for him. We didn't have anything in place. We didn't have any insurance, nothing like that. So sharing my personal story and other people's stories with whoever I'm sitting with at the time with that mindset will hopefully allow them to put themselves in my shoes and see themselves from the other angle. Because again, we all walk around like we got nests on our chest and like nothing's ever going to happen to us. And it's nothing to make light of. Look at COVID again. Every single day we're seeing people, like, the numbers are going up over here. I don't know how it is where you are, but people pass away from this thing. And that's just
Mm-hmm.
one, I don't want to call it minor, but that's just one speck, if you will, on the spectrum. So how I address it again is those stories and kind of make it, to your point, like you said earlier, relatable, because you don't know how long you're going to live. You can walk outside tomorrow and God forbid you don't end up coming home that night. So that's kind of in a nutshell. Hopefully I answered your question, but that's how I go about it.
Absolutely. And through COVID, a lot of people lost their jobs. That wasn't expected. And I know that, so I don't know, do you do finance advising? Because
Yeah,
we're told to, prepare 3 months in advance. But I
right,
was out
right.
of work for 2 years. I quit my job back in 2012. I just felt I was working for a company that had a glass ceiling. So I said, okay, I graduated, had my degrees, and okay, I'm gonna get a high paying job. I
Yeah,
was out of work for 2 years.
yeah, yeah.
So, um, but I lived off of my pension and, but again, you use money that takes away from your future self. And so um, that's not good.
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, it's good that you were prepared though. I mean, I get it. You didn't necessarily want to use that money because that was for a different goal. But thankfully, you had enough sense to put things away to a degree so that you can actually rely on that for those few years when you were off work, right?
That's
So,
true. That's
so that's
true.
big. That's very big. So to answer your question, I don't want to call it a one-stop shop, but I'm a financial professional, financial advisor, you can call it, independent broker, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So I myself, the main thing I focus on is educating people. I educate, educate, and educate, because the way I look at it is throughout school, you didn't we don't learn anything about personal finances. I learned how to count money. I learned this is a loonie. I'm in Canada, like I said, this is a loonie, a toonie, a nickel, and so on, right? And other than that, they didn't really teach me much about money. So who is teaching that stuff? That's what I started to understand, and I put it on my back to say, when I first sat down with somebody who shared this information with me, I realized my loved ones don't know this information, because if they did, they would have shared it with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it upon myself now to share that information. And once I share that information with them, then we can kind of work out a solution for whatever it is they want to accomplish at that point. I always say you need to know 2 points. And you may have heard it from one of my videos. You need to know where you want to go in life and where you currently are. And where you currently are, everybody, excuse my language in advance, it's called the budget. Okay? So,
The budget. The
or you can
budget.
or you can call it a financial needs analysis, whatever you want to call it, but you need to know where you are. Where are your dollars going? And you need to, again, have that vision of where you want to go. And what I do for people is I help them figure those 2 points out and then bridge the gap through solutions, whether it's investments, whether it's different types of insurance, whatever it might be. I always tell people, based on the companies I'm partnered with and that I work with, we can do everything from pet insurance all the way up to mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
So,
oh, okay. That's
yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Okay. And let me introduce you to Gary. And Gary had made a comment, and for a lot of people, their job was the source of their life insurance. You and Gary work for the same company.
Yes, Gary, good point.
So
Yep.
Gary, this is Kadeem, and Kadeem, this is Gary. And towards the end, Gary, if you're still on, I could bring you on live and really make the introduction there. Because you could bring up to 4 people live at one time on Instagram, which is nice.
Nice. To Gary's point, if you don't mind, it's tragic. It really is, because, and then I guess this goes back into your question that you asked earlier in terms of how I approach that mindset of no one needs insurance, right? At the end of the day, like I said, you want to leave something behind for most people, I should say, want to leave something behind for their future generations. And unfortunately, when you're with a job or you're working and you have this group benefits, they typically have insurance in that package, which is cool. They might give you 1 or 2 times your salary. But then what happens if you get laid off? What happens if you leave that job? You don't have that insurance anymore. So to have your own personal insurance is huge. And there's many different types of insurance too. There's the term insurance. There's actually insurance that comes with investments attached to it. If you utilize it properly, you can take out some of that in the future if everything works out. There's many different types of, and many different reasons or ways to utilize it, I should say. So again, at the end of the day, I don't want my kids to have to struggle to bury me, because a funeral is not cheap. So where's that money coming from? Yeah.
It's expensive to come into this world, and it's expensive to leave this world. Yeah. Type in your website so I can pin it. So for those that are watching the replay, they'll know how to get in touch with you if they have any questions. But we're going to take a little journey. And I think you mentioned it a little bit. Let me get you pinned here. Okay.
Yeah, that's my personal website. This is my Facebook. Go ahead, sorry.
We're going to take a little journey, and I think you alluded a little bit from this week's Tuesday's tips. You had an illustration. They were looking at a map. And so let's take a journey tonight. And I'm just going to give you different scenarios of different people, different situations that they have going on in their life. And I'll let you speak to each. And
Let's do
so
it.
we have one person, they're a newbie, they're just starting out. They just got their first job and they are living paycheck to paycheck. What would you say to that person?
What I would do first is I would figure out why they're living, or how rather, are they living paycheck to paycheck? Where are their dollars going? So, and I would share with them this concept. If the average person, let's say, honestly, it's more than this, but I'm going to be conservative and say $7. And where I'm getting at is, you go outside, you go to the gas station, you might be buying chips, you might be going to Tim Hortons, buying a coffee, buying all these little miscellaneous items throughout the day, right? So let's just say on the minimum side, it comes out to $7 a day. And let's just say during like every day of the month, so weekends included. If you cut that out and you stop spending $7 a day on miscellaneous things, instead of going to buy Tim Hortons coffee or Starbucks coffee, you end up buying a machine and just making coffee at home or something along those lines. You figure out a way to work it out. If you save that $7 a day, that is now $210 a month. And that is definitely enough to put aside and to start building your emergency funds through investments and those other things. So what are you really putting your dollars towards? The first thing I would do is sit down with them, have a conversation, of course, but really try to figure out where their dollars going. Because for some reason, a lot of us seem to have a hole in our pocket or a hole in our bank accounts. Money comes in and it just slips through our pockets without us even realizing it. So what subscriptions do you have? Like just the whole works is what I would do. Because we need to figure out a way to get you some type of emergency funds. Because what if something were to happen? What if you were to lose your job tomorrow? If you're paying rent and you're living paycheck to paycheck and you lose your job tomorrow, how long is it going to take you to get a new job? So, yeah, hopefully that answers your question there.
Yes. So I just joined my 401k. What would you say to that person? So I'm working, so I don't have an emergency fund, but I did start my 401k.
I would say, great, awesome, good job, congratulations. You started with your long-term savings. And I would congratulate you. However, we need that long-term and we need that short-term savings. Because again, you have that long-term, you're 30, 40, 20 year out, whatever it is, for retirement. But again, if something were to happen sooner, and you just explained it, you just said it, you lost your job for 2 years. So in that case, if you had a short-term savings as well, you could have been taking money out of there as opposed to the 401k retirement, right? So again, it's figuring out where you are, where you want to go in life. It all comes back to that basic principle. And then we can break it down and figure out a strategy to get you there, making sure we put these little plan Bs, if you will, in place, being your emergency funds.
Awesome. Now, I am the type of employee where I am working my dream job. So I have a salary pay, but I'm paying up the wazoo in taxes.
So we have accounts for that. However, here's the thing about that. We can go two ways with this. Do you have a business is the first place to go, because if you have a business, we know the tax benefits of having a business. You will pay tax on every single dollar you earn as a regular employee, earning your, what we call over here a T4, your tax statement. Your earned income from a personal income standpoint, you're taxed on every dollar. However, if you have a business, you cannot manipulate that legally in ways for your benefit, in many ways for your benefit, right? And you can get an LLC over there in the States. My understanding is it's very cheap, right? And you can utilize that in certain ways. Again, do your research is what I always advocate. Don't listen to me. Do your research and look it up, understand how it works. But then from the other side of it, you just said they have their dream job. They're loving what they do. So I would say, listen, there are certain accounts for that. How much are you paying in taxes? How much do you have? Let's look again at that financial statement to see how much you need for expenses. Because when we figure out how much you need for expenses, we can figure out what to do with the rest of it to help you put it away for your future, for your retirement, and to save on taxes versus paying it out to the government. You'd rather keep it in your pocket and in your family, in your household. So these accounts will help you do that. Don't pay it out to the government. Keep it in your pocket. Over here, one of those accounts is called a retirement savings plan, which is similar to the 401k that you have over there.
Yes. So you say in the United States, the LLC. So what do they offer in Canada as far as that is concerned? Or are you saying it's more expensive there?
Yes. So we don't have LLCs here, unfortunately. We have full corporations.
Okay.
So I know you have corporations over there as well, but we can't necessarily open up an LLC. The rules are different in that aspect. You have to go straight to a corporation if we wanted the benefits of a limited company.
Okay, seeing that we're international now,
Yeah,
for
exactly.
our international guest here tonight.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to become an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
but the benefits on my job, they're great, and I have a lot of cash in the bank.
Okay. Again, do your research. However, over here in Canada, I could say you can get your own personal health and dental benefits. Like right now, I do this, but I also have a full-time job. Do my full-time job, they offer me benefits, but I keep my personal benefits because let's just say I leave that company or whatever happens. So I have my personal benefits. So you don't have to keep a job just to have benefits, is my point, right? And if you have a bunch of money in your bank account, why is your money in the bank account? Do you realize that you are losing money when your money is in the bank account just sitting there? We always heard the old adage, put your money under your mattress, right? We've heard that before. However, inflation, let's say for the past about 60, 70 years, right? And inflation, let me explain what that is first. That's the cost of goods and services rising over time, right? A Starbucks coffee, I don't know how much it is over there. Let's say it's $4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably closer to 5 maybe. Let's say it's $5. Years ago, it was maybe $2.50, right? And that is the cost of goods and services rising over time. Gas, it's gone up over the years. And over here, it's gone up quite a bit over the years. That's inflation. Some people call it cost of living, same thing. Now, for the past 60, 70 years, it's been at 3.7%. That's how much it's been growing by. Now, if your money is in your bank account, where you're earning 0.05% typically, right? I'll tell you this. I personally had a high interest tax-free savings account with one of the banks over here. Tax-free savings account is an account where you can pull it out tax-free. And again, the name was high interest tax-free savings account. I was getting 1% return. It was with the bank. Now, if 3.7% is inflation, my money's growing at 1%, I'm losing money at the end of the day. So why is your money, again, Mr. and Mrs. Client, in that bank account doing absolutely nothing for you? And you have a bunch of it in there? Have some, because you need access to quick money in case anything were to happen. But the rest of it, we can put somewhere. Let's leave a few months in there for emergency. And we can take care of the rest and put it somewhere for you to accomplish these other goals you told me you want to accomplish.
Awesome. Now, and all these different scenarios, we're dealing with people at different income levels. And, I always tell people it's not how much money you make, it's what you do with your money that makes a difference. And so that's the key thing that I wanted to point out, that no matter where you are financially, you can definitely create some wealth for yourself and for your family.
Absolutely.
You may not grow. You can apply the same principles as someone that's making top dollar, but you may not have the same money in the bank, but you can win. You can still win and have more abundance than you can even ask or think. And so we were. I was going to post something today, and I haven't yet, but it shows the McDonald's prices years ago. And so between what you make on your job, it's not going to be enough.
Yeah.
It's not going to be enough. And so, that's where I get into the assets and investing. And,
Yeah.
but the other key thing that I mentioned this week is the trust funds,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
I did see that one.
yeah, about Rockefeller's family, to whereas that was like decades ago, and the family is still living, even though they sold the business. Now, Ford family, you know, the business
Mm-hmm.
still exists. So, you know, there are some wealthy families where the legacy has been passed down, where those companies are still in operating today. But the Rockefeller, they sold it years ago, from regulation. So, you know, the business doesn't even exist. So can you imagine?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it was just basically saying that they had a well thought out um, trust fund. So that's a new area that, you know, I definitely would want to explore, because I am a fourth generation
Oh, okay.
land owner. We
Yeah.
still own, my grandfather purchased and his father purchased over 100 acres of land in South
Wow.
Carolina, and we still own it to this day. And
Nice.
I always say legacy has legs. So each person that the legacy gets passed down to has to add to the legacy to
Yep.
keep it going.
Yep.
So, you know, I'm like the fourth generation, and then my daughter, she'll inherit it all. And so, and that's another thing too, bringing them in now to, you know, even though my daughter, she may not seem interested, if I were to die tomorrow, she can keep it going.
Oh,
So,
of course. Yeah.
so talk to us about that.
Yeah. So, in terms of the legacy piece, I think that again, it's huge because so I was born in Canada. My parents were not born here. My parents were born in Jamaica. They came over to Canada to do what? To provide a better life for us as their kids, which is what most immigrants do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now it's up to like, and they did well. They did well because one, they got here. Two, they raised us, right? And raised us in a loving way. Now, three, they provided as much as they could have, right? Now it's up to me and to my siblings, I think, this is the way I look at it, to raise the bar. They raised the bar in their own way. Now it's up to us to raise the bar. Some of the older generation would call our generations lazy, right? And I was talking to somebody about this the other day. It's not necessarily that we're lazy, it's just that we have a different way of working. We're working more mental and trying to work more smart. Mm-hmm. Because we're in the information age now. We're not in the labor age, if you will, right? So, or the industrial age. So at the end of the day, things are different. So being the legacy thing, to your point, legacy has legs. And I love that saying because it's up to us to keep walking or to go from a walk into a jog. And then the next generation can take it into a sprint, right? Even look at it like a relay race. We got to pass that baton. Mm-hmm. But if we drop the baton, we're gonna lose the race. That means whoever's next has to come all the way back and do extra work to pick that baton up, and then they have to try to catch up to the other people in the race. So again, that ties into many different things: investments, business, and insurance, all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. Because again, here's the thing. Here's how I look at it. I don't want to be a burden to my children. Mm-hmm. And I know, I'll say I hope nobody wants to be a burden to their children. Unfortunately, there are some people who don't care, but but to those who do care, you are being, and forgive me for saying this, I'm being a little frank here, but you are being a burden to your children if you don't have certain things in place, if you don't have a strategy like Mr. Renee is talking about. So legacy is so important because what are you passing on? What do you want to leave behind for your children? You got to start planning that and doing that now. It's not just about thinking about it. You got to put the action and plan in place because, like I said, we can walk outside tomorrow and God forbid pass away. Mm-hmm. We can fall asleep tonight and not wake up tomorrow. It happens. It happens to people all over the world, and it's unfortunate. I'm not wishing it on anybody, but it's the reality of things. So at the end of the day, you need to plan things now because you don't have an S on your chest. You're not Superman, Superwoman. So build on that legacy and pass it on.
And I think for me, because I'm 57, I think 57, 56. I don't know. I have to figure it out.
You don't look a day over 25.
But I am. But speaking of burden to your children, my parents got sick in their 70s and they both passed away. And I wasn't prepared for that. I had two healthy, thriving parents. And then all of a sudden, 2 years behind each other. Gary, are you in a position to come live? Because you two got to meet because you're both from Jamaica. Yeah, y'all got to meet. It's just like you two got to meet. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't prepared for that. But when my mom, she was the last one to pass away, I knew that I didn't, because my mom got sick. I wasn't prepared for it, even though I was her POA. She had dementia. So, I set up the nurses to come by, take care of her, but she wouldn't let them in. That's so she used to live with me, but then she moved out. So I was going to move her back in, but then I was working full time. So, I had to make a hard decision. And at that point, I made a decision that I wasn't going to be a burden. I didn't want my daughter to be in the prime of her life and have to take care of me. So that's what I'm preparing for now, because, we talk about preparing for retirement, but there's life after retirement where you need health care. And that's the part where people are not wanting to deal with. They're putting their heads in the sand. And so I'm just really preparing for that. Period. So that I'm not a burden to her. So I put a plan in place when this happens, where I can't take care of myself. I don't want to go to a retirement home, convalescent home, nursing home. So I have a home in South Carolina. It's already paid for. Hire staff. I'm going to have the business already set up. And this is where I'm going to be. The staff will be there 24 hours to take care of me. But again, that takes money outside. If you just have the Medicare and don't have the Medicaid, you got to pay that 20%. Right. And so it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to, first of all, my condolences again. It's always tough losing parents. Shout out to you, though, for having those plans in place and taking those actions, which unfortunately, like I said, not a lot of people would do. The majority of people aren't doing it. The stats show that. Again, don't trust me. Go look at the stats. But the stats show that we are not putting proper things in place. And one other thing this kind of ties into everything you asked me earlier too, is unfortunately, a lot of us think if we have a will and we don't do anything else, we're okay. That is not the way it works. There's something called the estate process or the probate process. And I think actually Oliver Perry, shout out to him, mentioned it when he was on live with you. That everything you own goes into this estate process or this probate process. Everything. Investments, businesses, everything you own. So if you don't plan things properly, this process, first of all, can take a very long time. I'll use this example, Prince, right? Prince, the singer who passed away years ago. We all know who that is. His estate was worth $200 million last time I checked. Guess how much I think it was 5 siblings see out of that? $2 million. Only $2 million.
Wow.
And the reason why is because he didn't have a will. He didn't have any insurance. He said, I don't believe in life insurance and these other. You don't have to believe in life insurance. It's not a religion. But it does have its usage. And as long as you understand how to use it, it's a tool. Utilize the tool. Once you utilize it, you can put things in place, and then you don't have to worry about your family not being able to having a financial burden, if you will. Because it's one thing to lose somebody. Of course, it's emotional, like you're torn apart. But you add that financial setback on top of it, if you will, it's a whole other ballgame. It is a whole other ballgame. And what people don't realize is that the will itself does not protect you. That just says if there's any money left over after all of this is said and done, then this goes to this person, that goes to that person.
Mm-hmm.
But again, there's fees, there's lawyer fees, there's probate fees, all like it might be named something different where you are, but there's a bunch of different fees in the estate process that have to be paid.
Mm-hmm.
If you owe money to anybody, they get access to that first, right? Your creditors and so on. Your credit card, if you owe money on your credit card, they're taking that first. Your line of credit, mortgage, all these other things. So at the end of the day, there's likely to be nothing left over. So the will in that case is not protecting you because your beneficiary is not going to be able to get whatever asset it is that you will to them. That's where these other things come into play. Like over here, we have something called segregated funds and something called life insurance. You have life insurance over there. I don't know if you have anything similar to segregated funds there, but those two things go straight to the beneficiary within a certain time frame, as long as it's structured correctly, and they bypass that whole estate process. So again, to your point, you plan things out, you strategize, you can pass on that legacy.
Amen. And let me get Gary in here because he can tell us what we have on our side.
Yep.
Come on in, Gary. And then, we're going to open the floor for questions. If you have any questions for Kadeem, now is the time.
Go easy on me. It's my first time live.
Trying to get Gary in here live. But anyway, we'll...
There
hey,
Gary.
Hello, hello.
Hey.
How you doing, sir?
Pretty good, Karen. Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
Gary, this is Kadeem. Kadeem, this is Gary.
Yeah, nice to meet you, and I feel like my story is probably similar, right? Because, I was actually born in Jamaica, though, but, when I graduated high school, my parents just packed up and brought all of us here, right? Like you said, for a better life. And that's what they did, and I don't think they have some of the protections like we talk about, so me taking the baton then with them bringing here to make sure that I have those things, for my children and passing it down. So, and then I know, like I said, with the company you're with, I actually joined them last year. I actually got laid off a little bit last year with COVID, and I mean, I was prepared, I have an emergency fund and I'm fine, but like you said, it makes you realize how many people don't have that, so I saw it as an opportunity to try to reach some of those people to share that financial education, and hopefully they will learn from that, so it's awesome to be on here with you. Definitely looking forward to just learning more.
Congrats and shout out to you for making the decision, because I always say this, people have a plan A being their job, but what happens again if you get laid off, if COVID happens or whatever,
right? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And again, it can happen. I want people to understand this. And I don't mean to take over the live, but
no.
All right. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, he has the cash flow quadrants, right? For those of you who don't know it, go look it up. Cash flow quadrants, ESBI. At the end of the day, if you are an employee, there's certain benefits, being the paycheck that comes every 2 weeks. As long as you show up to work, you're trading time for money. So if you don't show up, you're not getting paid. Now, as a self-employed individual, which is that S, is great because you're your own boss and nobody can fire you, because as an employee, you can walk in any day and see somebody packing up your desk, right? Both of you on here just said you've been laid off. And I would argue this number is not far off, right? 2 and 3 have been laid off from work, right? The number might be higher, I don't know. But as a self-employed individual, you can't be laid off. You're your own boss. The downside to it is the more money you make, the less time you have, because it's just you by yourself. That's why the dream is not to be a self-employed individual, but it's to be in the B quadrant as a business owner and have a system that's working for you. So shout out to you, Gary, for getting into a system where you can build that business for yourself. And Miss Renee, you've been doing that. So shout out to you again. But people focus on that plan A, which is the job. But is that really a plan A? I look at that as a plan C, maybe D, to be honest. The job. And like I said, I still have a full-time job, and I'm grateful for it. Mm-hmm. However, I have other plans in mind. The goal for me isn't to be able to retire and live a regular life. Whatever goals people have, to give back in a certain way, to build a well in some country, to provide electricity to a city, whatever it might be, to give back to your parents and retire your parents. A regular job, 9 times out of 10, will not allow you to do that. Because here's how it works. Your job is using you. Your job is using you. And again, I have a job. Don't get me wrong. Jobs are cool. They're okay. They're good to have.
Yeah,
but they're using you, right? You need to understand how to utilize your job, though. While they're using you, understand how to utilize your job and your paycheck, right? The 9 to 5 millionaire. If you don't know him, look him up. He's a great example, but I'll stop there.
I'm reading his book now.
Yep.
Jamal King.
Jamal King, yep.
Yep, yes. Yes. And the thing about when you're self-employed, I had I was self-employed before I owned a beauty salon, but it couldn't function without me. It could, I had people there renting. So, I couldn't take off for a month. I can go on vacation, but when I came back, I had to, do my share to keep the business going. And so I'm on the other side of the quadrant now, to whereas, my money is working. And I think that's the difference in the generation too. We got to stop coming up with the negatives about how they think, but if you put your money to work, it will work for you. It's planting a seed, and just planting the seed, watching it grow. But I'm also like at the stage where, what, I can plant some greens and I can plant some tomatoes. I could have a garden full of different vegetables growing simultaneously. And so,
love it.
But, at different levels, different stages of our walk, you got to be able to maneuver and continue to get educated, continue to do your research, like you're saying. And because I like to teach people how to fish. I like to invest, and it's so easy for me now. But at the end of the day, if I'm not here tomorrow, I want to leave a trail behind. So when my family decide, hey, I'm ready to make that move, then I wrote a book for them, or, I do the videos that, that they can connect into later in life. And you guys are my overflow. You know what I'm saying? So I'm leaving a trail. I have an abundance that not only for me, myself and I and my family, but you guys are my overflow. So I'm leaving a trail and imparting. And Gary's just like, he's a faithful, I don't think you missed any of these lives.
Yeah.
One.
Right.
I don't think you missed any. I mean, you have been so supportive, and thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then, like I said, I'm learning too, right? Because, I know you mentioned the Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read that as part of the book club that, that the Overflow group had. So I hadn't read it until then, and it definitely changes the mindset. So, I've learned a lot from the videos, the daily ones in the morning on Facebook and the Instagram Live too. So, I'm definitely learning as well.
I tell you, last week I could tell you, I invite guests, but sometimes it gets so busy in my week that I'm like, I didn't invite a guest. And I was like, so when I don't have a guest, I'll do it. So last week I did this Entrepreneur Live, and at the end, I was just so appreciative that Gary was still in the audience.
The faithful few. The faithful few.
I was like, oh my God. So what part of Jamaica are you two from?
I was going to get there. Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, well, it's funny you're Toronto story. I always tell people Montego Bay because everybody knows Montego Bay.
Yeah.
But, I was in Falmouth, though, which is, it's the same side of town, but I went to high school in Montego Bay. So I was in, the next parish over from St. James. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
What about your family? Oh, Kingston. Okay.
Yeah. Kingston
Okay,
for
yeah.
me. Yep. I was supposed to go back last year, but COVID. Anyway, we don't have to talk about all that.
Yes.
But,
Yeah, I feel you on that. Same thing here.
Yeah, but you see how consistency is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Gary's been coming out to all of your lives, and now Gary's on the live. Consistency always pays. It always pays off. No matter what it is, it's a little bit of, all right, so to Miss Renee's point earlier, it doesn't matter where you are. You have $5, you have $10, you have $15 a month. Whatever it is, keep putting it away. Why? Because it's going to build up. Mm-hmm. It's going to continue to build up. And when it gets to a point where you can put it into an investment account, you're stepping into that fourth quadrant, which is the I, investor. Get your money working for you. And now you're gaining interest upon interest on that money. Compound growth, compound interest. You only started with $5, $10, but now we're over here with however much because we built it up and gave it a chance by staying consistent. We gave it a chance to grow. So again, consistency is key. Shout out to you for that, Gary.
Yeah. One question I had for you though, just earlier, like you mentioned, talking to people with the budget, right? I know one of the challenges that I have is getting them to open up about that, right? Like they don't want to tell me, like you said, their spending habits, maybe they're for whatever reason, but what are some of the things that you do to try to reach them, in that regard?
I never have an issue getting a budget from somebody. And I'm not saying that to be big-headed. I've come across people who've had that same issue. Mm-hmm. But let me ask you this: what do you say to them so you can get the budget?
So I try to tell them that I'm trying to help them get to where they want to go, right? Help them achieve their financial goals, and the best way for me to help them is to know where they are.
And then what?
And then they say, well, they'll, they're good, they know they're not doing enough, or so.
Yep, I got it. So the issue right there, we could talk later because I don't want to take over the platform. But the issue I'm going to say right there is you didn't continue. You kind of left it in the air. You gave them a chance to object to it. If you will. So anyway, we can talk about that later. You reach out to me if you want to.
Yeah, all right, good. We'll do.
And the open conversation is good, because this is what people need to hear. And I can tell you my experience. I just would say, okay, let me see your budget, because I can look. I can look at your budget and see exactly, where your treasure is. So,
exactly.
Matter of fact, I was just doing my taxes, and now I'll get strict on a budget when I'm planning for something. So if I'm getting ready to buy a real estate or start a business, then I'm strict. Now you see I'm wearing my hair natural, so I'll do stuff like that. I'll take off my nails. I can find some money in a budget. I'm a single parent, so I can find some money in a budget.
Shout out to single parents.
My taxes, and I couldn't believe how much. I'm an empty nester now. My whole account was filled with Chick-fil-A. I was like, oh my gosh. So I gotta, I have to make a move because I'm planning, I'm not gonna work to 65. And if I do, it'll be my business.
That's it.
It'll be an option. It'll be something that I want to do. But I plan to, and they're like, changes are being made. We have a major contract with the state with Medicaid. And so we didn't get our contract. And so, which means that's our biggest account. And so they were going around, and before when it happened, they were like, get your resumes together. This time they said, you know what, because someone filed a lawsuit against my company, but it's false. And so we're going to fight it. And they're very confident about it. So they were going around saying, well, you don't have to get your resume. We're going to beat this. We're going to be fine. But if it does boil down, what are your plans? I said, you know what? I'm coming out of corporate America.
Yes.
So, I'm coming out of corporate America. That's why I'm going 120 for my business. I show up every day for my work, set time consistently, while I show up every day for my business. And so, I'm just stacking it now, just, you know. So when that happens, guess what? I'm going to be fully retired.
That's
There's,
it. I love
you
it. I
know,
love it.
so I'm just, you know, I'm not going to worry. I'm not going to worry about, because you work jobs and they hold that over your head. Like, you could be laid off. You know what? Do what you got to do. I'm good. And so my boss was kind of shocked. The conversation, you know, because I work with nurses and doctors and stuff, and they were like,
Yeah.
"Okay, Renee."
Yep. Yep. So, and what's so powerful about that? I mean, there's a lot that's powerful about that, but one thing that really stands out to me with that is, again, you didn't let the job be your plan A. Because if it was, you wouldn't have been able to just walk away like that. Or maybe it was at first, but then your mind shifted, right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, if we just rely on these jobs, here's the other thing too. People work 40 plus years at jobs. There's something called the 40-40-40 scam. They work 40 plus hours a week for 40 years of their lives and try to retire on 40% of what they could barely afford to live on in the first place.
Wow. I like
You're
that.
struggling to live on 60,000. How are you going to retire on 40% of that when retirement comes? And here's the thing, that's if you make it there, because again, that company could go down, whatever, anything can happen, right? Or you might have to leave for some other circumstance. So if you don't put things in, one big thing I always say, and I guess this will be like a main point, strategy, strategy, strategy. What is your strategy for where you want to go in life? What is your strategy to get you from where you are to where you want to go? If you do not have a strategy, you're doing something wrong. Let me be the one to tell you, you're doing something wrong if you do not have a strategy. And if you don't even know where you want to go, that's another issue. If you're young, I guess you try to figure it out. I don't want to say you have time, but try to figure it out if you're young. However, still, like, figure out a strategy and work on getting yourself there. And if you need financial assistance, financial help, get yourself around some qualified financial professionals. Because again, the people I grew up didn't know anything about finances. I knew nothing about finances. When I sat down with somebody for an hour, they blew my mind in terms of investments, insurance, and all these other things. I was like, whoa, these things exist? And that's how life insurance works? I always heard life insurance was bad. You mean I can use it to do X, Y, and Z? So sorry, Gary, you can go in a second, sorry. I want to retire my parents, right? That's one of my big goals. And if I don't make it to retire my parents, if I pass away prematurely, you mean to tell me this life insurance policy is going to take care of that for me? So I accomplish it even though I'm not here? Anyway, Gary, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add, you're right. I think the misconception is life insurance is just what you leave behind for your family after you die, you know, when, like I said, there's so much more to it now.
So much more to it. So much more to it. And I think Mr. Renee touched on something earlier that I wanted to say. I think it kind of left me. But at the end of the day, you had your strategy. You know what you had to do to leave the job, and you made it happen. So again, that's something I hope you're proud of that, because that says a lot. Most people won't do that.
Well, right now I'm working and getting it all set up. It's just like about a year ago, and it's just just really being sensitive to what the times are right now. And
Yes.
like I said, I lost my parents, and that was an eye opener for me. And then when my dad died, I'm proud to say that not only did he have enough money in the bank, but his house, he had retired, but he wanted to buy it outright cash, and they wouldn't let him. But anyway, I could have paid off the house back then. It's paid off now, but you know what I'm saying? He didn't leave us with a pile of debt.
Yeah.
And a pile of problems, so that was a learning experience.
Yeah.
My mom didn't either, but that was a different situation there, because my mom was on Social Security. But, still, I don't want to be a burden to my daughter.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave this earth and have nothing to show for it, or even be at my age and have nothing to show for it, and not had been prepared. So about a year ago, I said, I had been, like I said, self-employed before I had gotten out of school, and I went and, I just, corporate America wasn't for me. But again, when I moved to Ohio back in 96, it was like, you know, I had a business, but I had to get a job. And so I've been working ever since. But, you know, you do have options. You know, they hold that carrot over your head on the benefits, and you express it's different in Canada. But you know what I'm saying? We get locked in, and then, or we live above and over our means. That also holds us hostage. So I just say, you know what, I'm not going to be held hostage. And I, you know, do I wait until I retire to create this second life for myself? No, I'm going to do it now while I'm strong and vibrant, and, you know, so that, you know, I want to retire and travel and put my toes in the sand and, you know, but anyway.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So sorry, let me ask this quickly. Gary, you're in the States?
Yes. I'm in Georgia.
Georgia, all right. So when it comes to health and dental insurance, right? Group benefits, you can get that separately as well over there on your own, right?
Right. Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
But it's expensive.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Nice. All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing that, because again, it's so important, I think, to have certain things in place and to strategize. And you mentioned, Ms. Renee, how you help people. You help typically younger folks, you were saying. And I think I know what you're talking about, but do you mind explaining that a little bit more?
Well, you see that, he's in the overflow group too. So I have that community built up, which that's all it ages. But then I mentor, you know, that's my way of giving back.
All right.
I just got a guy that graduated from college. He's working his dream job, making dream money. But we got him into a 4-unit. He lives in it.
Nice.
He's now mortgage free. And so that's my college side. So, you know, whether they're in business or whatever, I just believe in balance. So if you're going to pursue the corporate side, that's fine, but you need this other side too. So that way, if your job does let you go, that these are some other options.
Yeah.
So yeah, just helping young people to be that bridge.
Yeah. Nice.
Be that bridge, and you know, like you said, the things that they didn't learn in college, but they're coming out of college with degrees and finding out like, I don't know that I want to do this, or they're working jobs that they're not satisfied with, and they know that it's not leading them where they're trying to go. And so that's where I fill in the gap for them.
Oh, nice. Thank you for doing that. I mean, because we need that mentorship.
And it's my pleasure to do that. So we are at the end of our live. We thank you, Kadeem, again for being with us tonight and sharing your story. Let me put the comments back on for your website. You're on all social media. So tell everybody how to get in touch with you.
Yeah, so my main platform is Facebook. I'm delving slowly into Instagram. As I said, it's my first live. So if you're listening right now, if you are listening to the replay, I appreciate you. I thank you. Thank you again, Ms. Renee, for having me on here. It is a pleasure. But on Facebook, you can reach out to me, send me a direct message. Instagram, you can do that as well. I don't know if my Instagram is already on here or not. That's how new to this I am. But you'll see me in the comments.
Yeah, so you see this little arrow up here. If you click on that arrow, it'll have your Instagram link in there, and they can
there it is.
join right from there.
There it is. So you can follow me on Instagram, send me a message, follow me on Facebook, which is where I post my main videos and whatnot. So you can reach out to me there at any time. Questions, I'm always open and willing to help people. If you're in the States, I have people I can refer you to over there as well. So, yeah.
Well, Gary is our in-state person because y'all work for the same company. So he's our in-state. So again, he should be under the arrow as well. So you both were in the group, and I don't try to do everything either. That's another thing. As a coach, I'm going to push you out there to pursue your dreams. And so
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to try to do everything because I have such talent in the group. But take us out, Kadeem, with your favorite quote or your favorite saying.
Okay. All right. Favorite quote or saying? I should have thought about this earlier. You see how new to this I am? No, I could say this. I leave with a strategy is what I'll do, if that's all right. Because the quotes aren't coming to me right now. Maybe it's being on the spotlight. But, and a book at the same time. So The Richest Man in Babylon is a book that I recommend everybody to read. If you're in the financial services industry, read it. If you're in business, read it. If you're not, read it. It's from George S. Clason. If that's how you say his last name, I'm not 100% sure. But The Richest Man in Babylon, it's timeless information. There's something called the 5 Laws of Gold in there. That is powerful. If you lead your financial life with those 5 laws, I think you're going to be in a completely different situation in 2 years, 5 years than you are right now. The Richest Man in Babylon, side information for me, it's from the book. You can read that and do with it what you will. So that's what I like to leave everybody with. One big thing from it is save 10% of every dollar you make. Save 10%. And I'm saying save, but really it's put 10% of it to work, invest it. Because that 10% will build up, like we said, and it will pay dividends. It'll get you compound interest and put you in a position you never thought you could be in. Let your little bits add up. Go ahead.
I love that book, and maybe Gary will do that for the next book club. I don't know, Gary. I don't know if I should do the book club again, but we'll talk about it. But
Okay.
that is a good book that maybe we'll do for the next book club. Right now, we're reading
Duplex,
multiple,
right?
multiple dwellings. So, but anyway, good night, everybody. Thank you for joining.
Yes,
Good night,
good
everyone.
night.
Thank
Till
you
next
again,
time.
Ms. Renee. Nice to meet you, Gary.
You too. I'll be reaching out.
Definitely. I look
All
forward
right,
to it.
thank you.
All right. Take
All
care.
right, you too.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.